What's up? And welcome back to the Something's Bruin podcast, episode 93.
93.
Now, no player in Bruins history has worn the number 93 in the 100 years of this storied franchise. So, what we're going to do today to represent the number 93. By the way, 7 episodes away from 100. That's crazy. Our own centennial. Maybe we should come out with a centennial logo. But it's all gold and sparkles. But to represent the number 93 on the Something's Brewing podcast in this episode, Johnny Busick in 1972-1973, a season that we all love, cherish, and remember vividly. He scored 93 points. Great season from the Chief.
Wow. Is he the only player to ever score 93 points in Bruins?
No, he's just the first one that I found.
Okay, I'll take it.
I'll take Chief. Yeah, I'll take Chief.
All right.
Speaking of the Bruins, well, the season's over. I
don't know. The vibes of this episode are the exact opposite of last week's.
Last week, coming into the episode, we were waving our rally towels. We had the hype speech from oh my god, what's that movie called? We claw with our fingernails for that inch.
Oh my god.
It's not Friday Night Lights, is it?
It's the one with Al Pacino when he's a football coach.
Yeah.
Any Given Sunday?
Given Sunday, yeah. We claw with our fingernails for that inch. Because we know when we add up all those inches, that's gonna make the fucking difference between a winning and losing.
Well, you know what? If you go back and you look at when we our last 3 episodes, right, of when we've recorded, the last 4 episodes. I think it was when the Bruins were up 3-1 on the Maple Leafs. And then the following episode, or I think they're up 3-2 on the Maple Leafs. And then the following episode was right after they won Game 7. And then the episode after that was right after the Bruins curb stomped the Panthers Game 1. And we were talking Bruins in 5. Ethan 2.0 said Bruins sweep. Don't think we forgot. And then the episode after that, they were down, what was it? It might have been before Game 6 or something. Yeah, and we were excited to talk about a Bruins comeback. The last 4 have been just electric. And then we come into this episode, season's over. This is where we're at. So,
well, I mean, do you want to get the vibes up really quick? Just a really quick vibe check.
If this is gonna be another episode where you're nonstop blasting videos when you're
no,
sharing them,
no, not today. Just right now and maybe a couple later. But let's pick the vibes up.
Okay.
Come on,
everybody! I know you know it.
I know you know what to do here. Let's go. Come on. Everybody, calisthenics. Let's get them going. Come on. We got a long off season. We got things to do. We might as well get moving now. To be unhappy. Young man, come on. Pick up the vibes. I know you're all in your cars right now doing a little bit of a foot tap, a little bit of a finger tap. We're all happy here. It was a good season. We'll get into it, but right now we're trying to pick up the vibes a little bit and get the energy going. It's fun to stay at the YMCA. Fun to stay at the
YMCA. Ridiculous music video, by the way. All the cast of characters that is crazy.
Yeah, but yeah. I mean, I don't really know where to start. First off, congrats to the Panthers. You got beat by the better team, the deeper team. They outplayed you for the majority of the season. Mel, you just made a face at me, so
yeah, man, screw that shit. I don't want to give them flowers.
No, we got to give them the flowers, dude. I mean, Sam Bennett just kind of came in and just owned the city for 2 nights.
Yeah, that sucked.
I mean, honestly, it's different from last year. There's no shame in losing to Florida. Florida is such a good team. I mean, you rattle off their players. Barkov, who just won the Selke, by the way, a.k.a. the Bergeron. Reinhart, Ekblad, Bobrovsky, Kachuk, Bennett. I'm forgetting somebody here.
Defense is insane.
Mikkola.
What's his name? Who was the guy who scored the game winner?
I don't even know. Was it Lundell? Was it fucking Lundell?
No, it was like It was at the Fenceman.
Montour? Wait, it wasn't Montour.
No. Hang on.
See, this is what I mean. They're so deep. Like,
it was gonna drive me crazy because I was looking at him all serious because he played. Oh my god. It bothers me when I have to Google Panthers defense and the Carolina Panthers show up. They're the worst team in the league, and the other Panthers, they're in the Eastern Conference Final. Like, hang on. I know people are screaming the guy's name right now.
Not Mikkola.
No. Give me a minute.
Luostarinen?
No.
I don't know if he's a defenseman.
Man,
I already put this series out of my head. It's no longer in my brain as I drop my French fry.
It's
Damn, Mel, do you want me to find it?
It's Gustav Forsling. There we go.
Forsling.
Guy was insane. Game 7.
He was nails.
He was a monster in Game 7. I don't know how the hell we got here. What were we talking about before we started talking about that?
I was giving the Panthers
we were just listing
flowers.
names on the Panthers. Yeah, no, I think that. I think I tweeted right after it ended because, like, when the Bruins lost, like, it sucked the way that they lost. Of course, that shitty ass goal with like a minute and 30 seconds left in the third period. It was ironic that Swayman had been standing on top of his head all playoffs, let alone that series, and then the goal that goes in is a little fluffernutter that just got inside the post. I mean, those the easiest ones are the hardest ones to save. And if you were to tell me that hey Minnie, if you were to tell me that the Bruins would lose 8 starters, they would lose Bergeron, Krejci, Orlov, Bertuzzi, all of these guys. And then if you were to tell me last summer that, hey, the Bruins would take it to 6 games in the second round, have 109 points, Lohrai's arrived. This guy, if you told me about Matt Poitras last summer, I would say, who the hell is that guy? And I think you're pronouncing his name wrong. If you told me about those two guys, if you told me about the regular season this team had, what they did in the playoffs, I wouldn't have believed you. And I know we don't celebrate losses around here, especially with all the teams the other teams that we have around here as well. But like, I don't know, like there's a lot to take from this season. I mean, they're going to have $22.5 million in cap space next year. Jeremy Swayman is going to be your franchise goalie for the next decade. I tweeted that the other day, and I had somebody tweet at me, yeah, you idiots said the same thing about Tuukka Rask. Yeah. Guy who won a Vezina, most franchise wins, highest save percentage, goals against average in franchise history. Guy's probably going to be a Hall of Famer someday. If Swayman can live up to that, we have the new greatest goalie in franchise history on our hands. That's awesome. But I mean, there's a lot you can take away from this season, but I just think the hardest pill to swallow for me is that it was to the Florida Panthers because I cannot stand them. Yeah. And after what happened last year, like when the Bruins were matched up against the Panthers again this year, I was like, God damn it. It's going to happen again. Like I think like you and I were talking when we weren't recording, and I was like, man, like Panthers in 5. Like this is going to be a really tough series. I remember I was talking to my mom because when the Bruins beat the shit out of them game 1, she was like, I thought you said that the Panthers are a lot better than the Bruins. I was like, Mom, I don't know. Like I don't know what's going on right now. Everything was looking up after game 1, but no, I mean, I know I was kind of pissy before, but I mean, props to the Panthers. They were the better team. They played harder. They deserved to win that series. They brutally outshot the Bruins throughout the entire course of events, throughout all 6 games of the series. You can say refs did this, refs did that. There was some horrible officiating moments, but I mean, you can't deny who the better team on the ice was. So we have one hell of an Eastern Conference Finals now ahead of us between the Rangers and the Panthers. But, even though the season ended the way that it did, there's still a lot of positives to take away from the season. So that's what I'm going to be hanging my hat on until next September, whenever the hell it is when puck drops.
Yeah, I mean, Mel, what did I text you out of the blue about an hour ago? Just totally random. 0 context behind it. What did I text you that had nothing to do with anything that we were talking about?
Bed bugs?
No.
Oh, you said a lot to be proud of. Yeah, no, I read that. I was like, what the hell is this guy talking about?
Listen,
I didn't even respond.
When you're thinking about this season, there is a lot to be proud of. You saw the emergence of Mason Lohrei, and oh my God, do we have an absolute stud on our hands. You saw the emergence of Matthew Poitras, seemingly, lighting the preseason on fire and winning a spot in the regular season and playing up until he got hurt. And that sidelined him for the rest of the season. So say he plays through the postseason, who knows what happens. Morgan Geekie, an excellent find by Don Sweeney. Parker Wotherspoon. A name that nobody in their right minds even had on their radar. And he comes into a bottom six role on that defense, bottom six role on that defensive unit, and he solidifies his spot. Derek Forbert is sidelined. Parker, no problem. Parker Wotherspoon, slide right in. Matt Grzelcyk, not really playing up to his ability. No worries. Parker Wotherspoon, right there and ready to go. Jeremy Swayman taking a leap, surpassing what he did last season. And last year he had a phenomenal year, and he managed to one up it. Jesper Boqvist coming in late during the season, playing well. Justin Brazeau, dude,
Pete
getting
too.
Yep. Get him for a full season next year. There's a lot to be proud of. A team that was supposed to be a bridge. It was supposed to be a bridge year for this team. They finished the season with 109 points, finished second in the division on the final day when the Florida Panthers beat you out for first place in the division and ultimately beat you out in the Stanley Cup playoffs, second round at home. But overall, dude, if you're really looking at this, obviously last year, the first year of our podcast, we got to begin in a year where we got to, cover the greatest team of all time in the regular season. Points wise, everything, they were setting records left and right. So that the end to last season was a little bit of a sting. And by a little bit of a sting, I mean they just stuck a 12-inch needle straight through your ass. and it really, really stung all the way through the summer. And then this season started, and you were looking at the team, and you were like, okay, no Bergeron, no Krejci. You have a lot of holes on this team. How's this team going to do? A lot of people were predicting the team would miss the playoffs entirely. A lot of people were saying a wild card team. Nobody was saying 100-plus points, let alone just barely finishing second in the division, just missing out on first, another division title. Congrats to the Panthers for the division. Screw you, but you did it. So, but, I mean, overall, if you're really looking at the season as a whole, you can't be upset. You really can't be upset.
Yeah, and I mean, I feel like it's almost a loser mentality to be happy with the way this season unfolded, knowing that we fell in the second round. And I always say we like I'm part of the team, knowing that the Bruins fell in the second round. But if we're being, subjective here, the Bruins, we want them to win the Stanley Cup every year, but they don't have the horses this year. The Florida Panthers just beat you down for 6 games. They're lucky the Bruins brought that to 6 games. The New York Rangers are an absolute wagon. If the Bruins somehow got past the Panthers and played the Rangers in the Eastern Conference Final, I don't know about that one.
I don't know. I don't mean to cut you off, but I kind of disagree with you.
Really?
I think truly, I think if the Bruins got to the Rangers, it would have been it could have gone either way. I'll say that.
I think that if the Bruins got to the Rangers, the only way they would have beaten them is if they rode the back of Jeremy Swayman, which can happen in the playoffs.
Yeah, right.
But that kind of goes back to my point where they just don't have the horses. They can't match up offensively with the Rangers. If you're relying on their goalie, and I know things have happened, teams have been able to do that in the past to make deep playoff runs, but you can't just keep leaning on Jeremy Swayman every single game. I mean, even those games against the Panthers where the Bruins lost, where he gave up, I don't remember all the scores off the top of my head, but when they lost 3-4, 3-1 or 4-1 or whatever the hell the scores were, and they were double, triple the shots, he gave them a chance every single night, but that's not sustainable. You can't continue. You can't go into the Stanley Cup Finals getting brutally outshot every single playoff round you're in. So I feel like they just didn't have the horses. And even looking around the Twitter landscape and seeing other people's opinions, most Bruins fans are, they're disappointed their team lost, but they're content. Like we said, there's a lot to take away from this season. There's a lot to be excited about. And I think what we were talking about going into this year was times have changed. It's always been about maximizing this core and doing what you can to add players to push all the chips in the pile. And that's how it's been every single year since I can remember. And this was the first year, they got younger and Bergeron retired, Krejci retired, a handful of guys retired. And like we had other things to be excited about. Like now all of a sudden we had some of this young talent that was like, we started talking a lot more about Fabian Lysell. We never got to see him, but we were talking about Merkulov. We were all excited when he came up. We're starting to follow all these younger guys because suddenly these are the guys that are going to be making a difference on this NHL roster. We start talking about Mason Lohrei. We start talking about Matthew Poitras exploded, and he earned an opportunity to be a regular everyday player on this team at the age of 19, and he grabbed it by the horns and ran with it. And I feel like when we were going into the season, like, yeah, obviously the end goal is the Stanley Cup, and that's what we've been pushing for all of these years. But I feel like this year it was more like, all right, like, let's see what the guys got. Like, we're playing with house money. Yeah. Like, let's see what we can do. Like, let's get crazy. And it was one hell of a ride. And the Bruins started off with the greatest start in franchise history, and they kind of rode that wave. They had a lot of ups and downs throughout the season, but they finished, like you said, until the very last day. They were first in the Atlantic. They had 109 points. They were one of the best teams in the Eastern Conference, in the NHL, let alone just the Eastern Conference. And they rode it as far as they could to the second round. But there's a lot you can take away from it. Like we were saying, Mason Lohrei's arrived. That guy's insane. Absolutely insane. You have a bona fide floor level. He's a top 4 defenseman. Like, forget that. Like, this guy is an offensive dynamo. He's crazy. Matthew Poitras, I mean, we only got to see half a season of him. I mean, he's got a full off season to train in NHL and like last year too. I mean, he wasn't sure if he was going to make the NHL roster. I think that's pretty safe to say he's got a spot in the team this year. So now you have a full off season of Matthew Poitras training and getting ready to go for a full NHL season. You got to think that's going to pay off for him. Like we were saying, we knew what Jeremy Swayman and Linus Ullmark were. When it came to who they were in the playoffs, question marks, right? Like last year, Ullmark sucked. He was hurt. We get it. Swayman started game 7 last year. They ended up losing. Both of them kind of had a bit of a streaky playoff numbers. This year, I'll give Ullmark his flowers. The one game he did start against the Toronto was that against the Maple Leafs or against against the Maple Leafs. There we go. I can't even remember. It was so long ago. He played insane. But the story is Jeremy Swayman. I mean, the guy is incredible in the regular season. At the All-Star break, he was a top 3 candidate for Vezina. He had like a tough month in the second half of the season, but I mean, in the playoffs, that's where goalies make their money. I mean, people talk about Jonathan Quick as a perfect example. Guy's never won a Vezina trophy, but he's got 3 cups. The guy, if you could pick any goalie for the last 20 years, if you're going into the playoffs, game 1, who do you want as your goalie? Give me prime Jonathan Quick, because the guy is a monster come playoffs. And you just saw Jeremy Swayman, and it wasn't for one game, it wasn't for one series. For 2 series, he battled 2 incredible offenses. And, I mean, you couldn't go on any NHL, ESPN, when ESPN rarely talked about hockey. You couldn't go on any NHL-affiliated account where they were posting and talking about the NHL, and everybody's talking about Swayman. I mean, he's a talk of the league. This guy is incredible. The saves he's making and the consistency. He didn't give up more than 2 goals in a game until, like, what was it, like game 3 of the second round against the Panthers, some crazy shit like that. So there's a lot to take away. I think that there is a lot of growth amongst players this year, guys who, like all the names you mentioned before, who you maybe weren't expecting to take another leap in their game or maybe another step. And it's honestly getting me all the more excited for next year. All the cap space, all the growth you saw from the players this year. Let's get crazy. Let's see what we can.
Well, talking about cap space, the Bruins have a ton. And when I say a ton, I mean they have a ton of free agents, whether restricted or unrestricted. And I'll just go through the list right now. So projected cap space of $20.9 million. And your unrestricted free agent list right now is headlined by Jake DeBrusk, and then following Jake DeBrusk is Derek Forbert, Matt Grzelcyk, Kevin Shattenkirk, Pat Maroon, Danton Heinen, and JVR. Your restricted free agents would be Jeremy Swayman and Jesper Boqvist. Do you want to talk about a potential Jake DeBrusk contract?
Yeah. Well, first of all, of all those names you just mentioned, if you're Sweeney, who is the first guy you're approaching for a new contract?
Dude, Jared Swayman. 100%. Yeah. Yeah.
He's going to get a lot of money. But honestly...
Let's start with JD, though.
Okay.
And then, hang on. Before you start, I'm going to pull this up. These are just some player comps of Jake DeBrusk. On the screen, I have pulled up Michael Bunting, Tyler Bertuzzi, and Jake Gensel.
Well, Jake DeBrusk is interesting because, I mean, he is one of the streakiest players I can ever remember seeing. I remember when we were at game 35, and he had 3 goals and 8 points.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what his final numbers were this year, but I know he hit 20 goals.
He had 40 points.
Do you know how many goals he had?
In terms of goals for Jake DeBrusk this season, I believe it was
he had 19 goals, 40 points. So, I mean, he got off to a slow start. He's streaky. He can take over games. He can go hot for a week or two. But he's a playoff monster. For whatever reason, the guy delivers in the playoffs. And you can live with the guy being streaky in the regular season if he can consistently deliver in the playoffs. And that's exactly what Jake DeBrusk does. Your hand is up.
I want to say that this season, Jake DeBrusk, it was the most games he's played in his career, 80 games. It was also his second worst season in terms of production, and the only season lower in production was a year where he scored 35 points and he only played 65 games. That was in 2019-2020. Last season, he had 50 points in 64 games. And you saw him drop off by 10 points with an extra 16 games played.
Yeah. So, I mean, the production during the regular season wasn't exactly there, but you're willing to take that if he's going to show up and deliver in the playoffs. And that's what he's always done. Mm-hmm. On top of that, too, I don't know how you feel about when the season ends and then all the players get interviewed and then they, oh, I was fighting this all year. I had this injury. It's always interesting to hear what it is, but I don't know. It's kind of it's almost like an excuse in a way. Yeah, at least that's how I take it. But, Jake DeBrusk did say that he was fighting an injury. I don't remember what it was. Was it like a fractured hand or something? He had something weird.
Yeah, I believe so.
Yeah, he had something weird that he said he was fighting for a big chunk of the season that really didn't heal until the playoffs. Go figure. So I'll be willing to give him the benefit of the doubt with that. But, for what we talk about offensively, production-wise, defensively, the guy's a menace. He's a fantastic two-way player. He's huge on the penalty kill. So there's also value in that.
No, I was just going to say he is the Bruins' best forward penalty killer by far.
Yeah, I mean, he's a real I know everybody when you talk about Jake DeBrusk, most of the talk is about his offensive game. Mm-hmm. Because he's got a weird player type. I don't really know. I know you we were talking about that today. I mean, I was working, but I saw you and Brett messaging about it today, and how he's or it might have been yesterday, how he's like a power forward, but doesn't really hit that hard or fight, but he also snipes but he plays a 200-foot game. So who the hell is that? It's hard to describe. So in terms of what I would give him, I think before the season started, I was saying I wouldn't go more than 6.5. At one point when he was really slumping, I was give him 3.5. I think I would give him. Let me do a little math in my head here. I would give him 4 years, 6.2 AAV.
Damn, you would go that high? All right.
Yeah.
Okay, hang on. So the reason I have this pulled up on the screen right now, I have the numbers comparing Michael Bunting, Tyler Bertuzzi, and Jake Gensel. That is pulled up on the screen right now. Michael Bunting, just to give a little bit of a reference for people who aren't watching on YouTube, Michael Bunting, 268 games played. He has 181 points. Tyler Bertuzzi, 406 games played, 261 points. Jake DeBrusk, 465 games played, 266 points. Jake Gensel, 520 games played, 491 points. The only reason I have Gensel pulled up here is because I've seen people try to compare the two, and to me, it's not even close. And here's what I'm going to say. So Bunting, with 181 points in 268 games, he's making $4.5 million. Now, the thing with Michael Bunting is he doesn't, by the way, Michael Bunting's point per game number is higher than Jake DeBrusk. Michael Bunting is at a 0.67 points per game, while Jake DeBrusk is at a 0.57. Michael Bunting is making $4.5 million while also being that agitator. There's a reason that followers of the NHL know who Michael Bunting is, and it's not because he's a star. It's not because he produces all the time, but it's because he's an average producer, but at the same time, he brings that extra skill set of drawing penalties, kind of being a dick out there and I mean that in a positive way, being an agitator and getting under the players' skins and the other team's skins. So he makes $4.5 million. Tyler Bertuzzi, 261 and 406. Again, a little tiny bit of a higher points per game number than Jake DeBrusk. He's making a cap hit of 5.5. And then Jake Gensel is at $6 million. He's bound to get a big upgrade in pay. And he's 10 times the scorer that Jake DeBrusk is. Now, the reason I brought this up is because I think he's more comparable to Bertuzzi. I think on Twitter, I initially said I wouldn't go any higher than 4.5. And I'll backtrack that a little bit. I think for Jake DeBrusk, 4 years by 5 is where I would sit at it. 4 by 5.
I don't know. I'd be willing to give him a little more than that. I mean, if it's true about his injury this year, and I know I'm kind of being hypocritical because I just said I don't like using the whole excuse thing.
But you said like it's kind of 50-50 anyways.
The guy's he's been a consistent 23 to 28 goal scorer. I think he's hit 30 goals once. And if you add that in with a 200-foot game, he's obviously pretty good in the locker room, and he's a playoff monster. Like, I don't know. Let me pull up his playoff points because I saw him the other day, and it was ridiculous.
Sure. It is ridiculous. And you would be paying for his defensive game as well. Like those tend to go unnoticed, especially when you're just kind of diving into numbers and points and whatever. You have to consider the defensive aspect of the game as well.
DeBrusk has 86 career playoff games. That's a little more than a full season. He has 27 career playoff goals, 47 points. This year alone, he had 11 points in 13 games. Last year, he had 6 points in 7 games. So I mean, the guy he's been delivering in the playoffs.
But how many points? Sorry,
he had.
My
career,
bad.
No, you're good. Career, he has 47 points in 86 games. This year, he had 11 points in 13. Last year, he had 6 in 7 games. So, I mean, the guy, he's been producing in the playoffs. And
I'm going to be honest with you. I thought that point total would be higher. I'm not lying.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
I thought, I think he's been good the last 2 years in the playoffs, but I think he kind of, like his second career season in the NHL, he had like six points in like 24 games or some shit like that. But I don't know. His number is one that really confuses me because I've kind of been all over the place with him. Like I said, before the season started, I would have given him 6.5. At one point, I was down to 3.5. I think I said 6.2 after listening to you compare him to Bunting, Bertuzzi, and obviously he's not Gensel, but I think you're right. I think 6.2 is a little too high. I think the most I would give him is 6.
Okay.
I would be comfortable.
4?
Yeah, screw it. I think I would feel more comfortable. Low 5s, 5.3. We'll say
5.
that.
All right. So basically somewhere between like 5 and 5.5.
The Charlie Coyle deal. What did Coyle get?
Oh boy.
I think it was
off the top of my head.
5.5. Oh,
might be 5.5.
Now we're throwing numbers out there. We're gonna get all confused.
Charlie Coyle, his AAV is 5.25.
Yes, I would give Jake DeBrusk the Charlie Coyle contract.
I would be okay with that. I mean, that makes the most sense. But the thing is, with Jake DeBrusk is his UFA status, right? So every team out there, once free agency opens up, any team can offer him a deal. And you got to think a team like, say, I don't know, Chicago, Seattle, Arizona, like they'll be willing to pay a little bit more. And that's where I get nervous because there are certain guys out there in the league, depth guys that, yes, you would be willing to overpay for. I think Jake DeBrusk kind of fits that mold, but only a certain amount. Like, you can't handcuff yourself in the future with a deal that's just going to kind of – I mean, you got Lorai coming up in 2 years. You don't want the Jake DeBrusk contract to get in the way of that. Yeah. You got Patra coming up in a few years as well. And you're going to have to deal with it. And that's where I get nervous. Like, if he was an RFA, you would have a lot more wiggle room to work with. You would be able to kind of hold it off a little bit longer. But the fact that he's a UFA and that as soon as free agency opens and the market is fair game, you could see a team who's rebuilding right now who could desperately use a player like Jake DeBrusk, and that's where the Bruins could kind of get screwed.
Yeah, I could definitely see a team overpaying for DeBrusk. I mean, he checks a lot of boxes for what you want from a player.
Yeah.
I mean, we already said he's a good locker room guy, even though he requested a trade and said never mind. From what you've seen, I mean, on Behind the Bee and from like Ty Anderson stuff, he's very close with his teammates. He's very outspoken in the locker room. He's a great penalty killer guy, which is valuable. He's a 200-foot guy, which is valuable. He's at least in recent years, he's a proven playoff guy, which is valuable. And every now and then he can go absolutely nuclear for like a week or two. I mean, I know like this year was kind of weird in terms of his point production, but just last year he was almost a point per game player. He had like 50 something points in like 62 games.
Yep.
So like he's more than capable. It's just with how streaky he is. That's why like it's really hard coming up with a number of what I feel like if you were to ask 10 different people of what number they would give Jake DeBrusk, you probably get between $3.5 and $7 million because it's it's kind of a crapshoot in terms of what people value. But I think that you're right. With him being a UFA, there's definitely going to be teams that are going to be willing to overpay, and it's a matter of what the Bruins are willing to go up to and how much he really wants to be here.
Yeah, and I mean, you do see him come through in big games. Like the whole Jake DeBrusk saga is so bizarre. Like it really, like you don't like. We're like 7 years into his career, and we still don't really have a solid idea of who he is as a player.
Yeah,
it's crazy. But
yeah,
like I was gonna add something else to that as well. And it's escaping my mind right now. But that's okay. We can move on to the big fish that everybody's waiting to hear. Obviously, the number one priority for Don Sweeney and the Boston Bruins, and that is Jeremy Swayman.
That was perfectly timed.
Right. I'm getting better.
What's your number for Swayman? Hit me with it. I have mine.
I mean, it's bare minimum, $8 million bare minimum. I'm thinking if you really, it's, I don't know. If you really have to give, like, this is a big number. I think it's going to be somewhere between 8.5 to, it could be anywhere between 8.5 and 10. I think 10 is the absolute max. I'm wary about giving a goaltender $10 million because, I mean, Jesus Christ, he needs to be stellar for the entire year.
Yeah.
I mean, the highest paid NHL goalie for this season. Do you know who it was?
Yeah, Bobrovsky, 10.5.
Nope. Oh, yeah, okay. It is. Tied. Sorry. he's tied with Carey Price. They're both 10.5.
Oh, okay. Wow, Carey Price is making 10.5.
Still making that.
And I think is Vasilevsky at 9.5, or he might be not.
Vasilevsky is 9.5.
Yeah, I mean,
I know
it's tough because we were talking about this way back, and we've referenced it a few times. We were talking about this with Zach in one of our first episodes that no NHL team has ever won the Stanley Cup with their starting goalie making double digits in terms of AAV. Oh man, but like we've seen, like goalies can do that. I mean, hell, Jerry Swayman almost carried you into the Eastern Conference Finals.
Right.
I think my absolute limit, the biggest contract I would give Swayman is 8 years, $80 million. 8 years, $10 million AAV.
Damn.
I know. He's 25 years old. We're both older than him. I'm a week older than him. He's gonna be your franchise. You have your guy. You don't have to worry about drafting anybody. You don't have to worry about anything else. All you have to worry about is who's going to start 25 games a year when you give Swayman a breather. So if it came to it, I would give him 8 years, $80 million, but I would probably start at 8 years, $9 million. I think that's what I would. Well, I think that's what would get it done. I think that's what I would want. I think that's fair for both sides. I think if the Bruins offered him 8 years, $9 million AAV, he would take that. But if it gets to it and he says, 8 years, 80 mil, or I'm walking after this season. Okay. Here's 11 mil.
Yeah, here's the check. Yeah, please don't even tell anybody about this.
Yeah.
Sign this NDA.
Yeah.
The only thing that makes me kind of waver from a deal like that is that when you look at a starting goalie, right, a bona fide number one ace in this generation of goalies, what is like the bare minimum of starts per year that you would expect from a goalie like that? 60. Take out Allmark, 60. Okay. The most amount of games that Swayman has started in his career came this year, and it was 44 games. The season before that, 37. The season before that, 41. And then the season before that, his rookie year, 10. Now, with that being said, that's 132 games total through 4 seasons. 125 started, 132 played. He's got a record of 79, 33, and 15. He's got a goals against average of 234, bananas, and a save percentage of 919 with 12 shutouts. I think based on the games he started in the number not surpassing, 45 throughout his 4-year career thus far, I think the team starts at 8x8. I think that's where they start. Mm-hmm. And then it goes up from there, obviously, because you're not getting Swayman for 8x8. Like that would be a steal. Yeah. And I mean, granted, if he wants to, do that for the team and help out the salary cap and allow Don Sweeney, Cam Neely in the front office to spend more money to win, then I mean, by all means, go for it, Swayman. We'll love you even more for that. But I think 8x8 is the starting point. And you can base that off of the games that he started, kind of comparing that to goaltenders around the league making a similar amount of money as he expects to get.
Yeah, and with the whole starts thing, because I've seen people online talk about that too, about not a knock on Swayman, but here's something to think about.
Definitely not a knock. But
no,
yeah.
I know, but here's something to think about when you're giving a goalie that much money. But like it's a unique situation with Swayman because it's not like he's a backup. Like it's not like the Bruins. Right. Like the Bruins could afford to only start him if they wanted to start him 60 games. They could have, and I have all the faith in the world he would have still continued with his dominance.
Yep.
I mean, the numbers that you just showed. I mean, the fact this guy stepped in as a starting goalie, starting games in the NHL when he was like 21 years old. And his numbers when he was that young are incredible. And they're consistent with what he's doing now at the age of 25. Somehow he's getting better every single year, actually. And I'm willing to invest in that. And not just that, but what he's been able to do in the playoffs as well. I mean, we just spent like a half hour talking about Swayman's dominance in the playoffs, but I feel like it's a really unique situation where like when Vasilevsky got his fat ass deal, when he was making like $9.5 million, when he signed that shit, he already had a Vezina. He already had a Stanley Cup. He was the best goalie in the world at the age of 25 when he signed that deal. Same age as Swayman.
Yep.
So, would you want to give Swayman a similar deal to a guy like Vasilevsky who had that kind of resume at the same age? I don't know. It's not my decision, but I do know that what?
I was just thinking to myself, had Vasilevsky won a cup before he signed that massive deal?
I believe he signed. Oh, you know what? You might be right. I believe he signed the deal before he won the cup, but it kicked in after he won the first one.
Okay.
So by then he was already like unequivocally the best goalie in the world, which is, I mean, you pay the best goalie in the world. That was the biggest contract in terms of a total amount of money a goalie had ever received. He deserved that contract. I feel like with Swayman, you're right. Like you've seen dominance from Swayman. You've seen him look like the best goalie in the world. You just don't have the same, and like forget resumes or accolades that Vasilevsky has. Like you don't have the same, like a length of time. Like he doesn't have the same amount of starts. You're right. He didn't start 60 games in a year, but at the same time, that's because he didn't have to. Like the Bruins were in a position where they could start Swayman, they could start Ullmark, and I don't know. He's a unique situation too, man. Bruins are full of these guys with unique situations of what number they're going to get. But I think after watching the season that Swayman had this year, after watching the season he had last year, after watching the saves, the starts, the games, the minutes everything he's been giving you since he was 21, since the Bruins first called him up, and more importantly, after watching him dominate the playoffs. I mean, this is your guy, and you pay for goalies like that. I mean, you pay for goalies who can steal you a series, and the Bruins deserve to beat the Maple Leafs. So I won't say that he stole you a series there, although it was getting a little scary there at times. And he did the best he could to steal you that series against the Panthers. So I mean, you pay for goalies like that. I think the Bruins have their guy. 8 years, $9 million. I do it. Make it work.
Yeah. All right. Well. That's our and then should we go through the rest of it? I'll just really quickly before we jump into the
no, actually before you get to that, one of the if we're still talking about free agents, if I'm going to Jeremy Swayman first and I'm spending all my time, if I have an hour of time to negotiate, I am spending 45 minutes with Jeremy Swayman to make sure I get that deal. Then I walk next door and I spend 5 minutes with Jake DeBrusk, and then the very next door I go into is Pat Maroon. I want him back so badly. Okay. I mean, everything he brings. I mean, he's not gonna get 35 goals, but he's more than capable on the ice. But what he brings to this team, like in terms of like giving them a backbone, I would pay through the moon for that, because we've been begging for a guy who can do that forever, and it sucks that Pat Maroon's finally here and he's like 37 years old. But we're talking about locker room guys. I mean, like the best of the best is Pat Maroon. Even Craig Berube, hate the guy. He's now in Toronto, but he was saying about Pat Maroon in like game 5 or 4, whatever the hell it was, when he was on TNT, he was saying all the players he's coached, all the teams Berube's been a part of, Pat Maroon is the absolute best locker room guy he's ever had on his team. He was saying that just the way that he can connect with everybody in the organization. I mean, the players, coaches, trainers, staff. I mean, the guy is just a pro's pro, and he's the kind of player that any organization would be proud to have in their locker room. And like, I can't stand Berube's guts, but like hearing him say that, and then like hearing what Pat Bruin has said about the Bruins and about playing in Boston, about the fans, about his teammates. I mean, he was the only one who was like sticking up for this organization, not sticking up for his. He was the only one saying something when the Bruins were down 3-1 and the refs were screwing him, and he went up there and said, "We just got to win a damn game." Like, he's the only one saying what we all want to be said, and like the Bruins need that, especially with like this team moving forward. Like, they're just gonna get younger. Like, they're gonna lose some guys this year. They're gonna bring new guys in. I mean, you already have Brad Marchand. Get him some help. Get him another. I mean, I know they have a good cast of captains, but get him another voice in the locker room. And I want Pat Maroon to come back. Mm-hmm. It just sucks that he's 37. I wish he was like 5 years younger.
I know. Damn, that was a good little breakdown. So let's go through the list really quick.
Thanks.
So, just yay or nay to bring back.
Okay.
Or, you know what, not to do, we'll do priority. If this player is a priority or not.
Okay.
Jake DeBrusk.
Like low level priority.
Okay, I'm in the same boat. Derek Forbert?
No.
No. Matt Grzelcyk?
He's not a priority, but I'm not saying see ya either.
I'm saying see ya. Thank you for everything, Grizz, but see ya.
I thought about it a little deeper. I really like Wotherspoon. I like Wotherspoon's contract. I like Lohrei. I think I'm with you. I'm okay with him walking.
Well, but and you have Peak now too.
That's true, but we got to think: are we losing his dad as well? If Grzelcyk's gone, does the Garden lose Grzelcyk's dad as well? I don't know. You gotta.
It's gonna be a messy breakup, but I think it's gonna be.
Yeah, I think it's gonna be real ugly, but it's gotta happen.
His dad starts making chips in the ice. Like, I'll show you,
scumbags. I'll put a wet corner behind Swayman.
You know what? You know what? He should paint the number 48 behind the crease like they did for Gretzky when he retired.
And like he did, like nothing's wrong with him. He's playing in Nashville now. Like he's just gone.
Yeah. Grzelcyk's dad is just like, sweetie, I understand what you got to do, but listen, you got to also understand what I got to do. This is my family. So, all right. Kevin Shattenkirk.
No. I'm okay. Low level.
Pat Maroon. You just gave your.
Yeah, I want Pat Maroon.
All right. I say 50-50. Here's my thing with Maroon. he's so valuable in terms of everything that you just said, like his voice, his leadership, and how he can bring a locker room together. Not even really just a locker room, but how he can bring an organization together. That's, you can't really find that elsewhere. But in terms of the lineup, I'm assuming you want Justin Brazeau back, right?
Yeah.
So if you have Brazeau and Maroon, that bottom six is going to be real slow.
Well, I mean, Maroon doesn't have to play every single night. Like I'm okay.
Okay, so have him as like an extra guy.
I mostly just want him to be there. Like I want his, and I'm assuming he would sign a vet minimum. I mean, unless another team is willing to pay a little more, then he can go there. But like I would be paying him to, play every 10 days. When a guy needs a breather, interject Pat Maroon. Maybe you're playing against a more tough physical team. Maybe a guy's been taking runs all night at a player or something. Maybe you throw Pat Maroon in. I don't know. But I mostly just want him there for his leadership and for his presence.
Okay. Boom. That's fair. I'm 50-50. You're like 100%.
Yeah.
85. Oh, okay.
Bring him back.
Danton Heinen.
I want Heinen back.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah, definitely. I'm really interested to see what his number is going to be.
That's an interesting one because I feel like after a lot of teams seeing what he did for the Bruins this year, I feel like teams are going to be willing to throw at least $2.5-3 mil at him. Honestly,
I mean, he's another guy too. You can put him anywhere. I mean, you can put him on any line. He got first line minutes this year. He was getting some special teams time. I mean, he's
the Brock Holt of the Bruins.
He really is. He's like the ultimate Swiss Army knife. Now, I just wonder two things. First of all, what's his number going to be? And second of all, can he do that again? Because he popped off a couple years ago at Pittsburgh. He was sniffing 20 goals. This year, he was doing more than just scoring. I mean, he was playing great defensive hockey. He was all over the place. Mm-hmm. And I don't know. Like, I don't know if this was like his coming out. Like this, you could say the same thing for Morgan Geekie. Like, are these the players going to be moving forward because you pay for guys like that? So those are the two things I'm wondering. What's his number going to be, and is this who he really is? Pretty much.
Yeah. JVR.
I'm okay with him leaving.
Yeah.
I like JVR. I mean, I thought he was really great at the beginning of the season, but he's another aging player. I mean, I really want this team to get younger, and I think that, I mean, I know he's making next to nothing, but let's use that money a little more wisely. Let's use it somewhere else.
Yeah. Especially with a guy like him, if he doesn't get re-signed, you're more than likely going to see Lysell to start the year next year. Mm-hmm. I would honestly be shocked if you don't. I know others are saying who are closer to Providence that, a guy like Lysell needs another year in Providence. But at this point, it's like, no, like you need to know what you have. Like, this past season was and should have been his last season in Providence. I mean, he was teetering on the edge anyways. Like next year, you should see at least a good 20 to 25 game sample to see what he can do. And if he really can't produce in the NHL, then, I mean, it's another draft pick that just doesn't really look too good on the part of Don Sweeney. But I think you see him in the lineup, so I think that's why you really let a guy like JVR walk. Let's move to RFAs. Obviously, Swayman, yes.
Yeah, big old fat contract.
Right, giant. Just give him the check. Jesper Boqvist.
I would like Boqvist back. Yes. I really liked him. I really liked that fourth line with him, Beecher, and Brazeau, the Killer Bees, or whatever the hell you want to call them. I mean, they were, no pun intended, they were buzzing. But I like him too because he can play center, he can play wing, he's speedy. He's also he's nice on that line because especially that fourth line, the way that it was constructed. I mean, you have John Beecher, your true 200-foot guy, can win a faceoff like it's nobody's business. Yeah. Just a hard guy to play against. Just kind of does all the little things. You have Brazeau over here, who's this big lumbering 6'5" forward with a little bit of speed in his game. He's got some soft mitts. That goal he had in game 1 was pretty crazy. You have him, and then on the other side, you have this little Swedish dart, Boqvist, who can win a face-off. If Beecher gets kicked out, he's playing wing. He's a little bit of a playmaker, can do a bit of everything. So I really like the way that fourth line is constructed. So yeah, I would be all aboard bringing Boqvist back.
Yeah, everything you just said. I mean, the way that he brought speed and skill to that fourth line between two bigger bodies. Beecher obviously is a bigger body, but he also has speed and skill too. I like the way that fourth line rolled. So I think you really want to bring Boqvist back, and he's RFA too, so you can kind of hold out on that for a little bit.
Another guy that they snagged from the Devils too.
Yeah, exactly. Another younger guy who just kind of fell down the wrong path in New Jersey. So top, give me your top 3 free agents that the Bruins need to re-sign in number of priority. Do you want me to go first? I already have it.
Yeah, you can go first.
Swayman, number 1, not even close. Number 2, I guess JD, if you can get him at a fair deal. And then 3, I kind of have a tie between Boqvist and Heinen. I have Boqvist a little bit ahead of Heinen just because he's younger, and I feel like you could really use that skill. But Heinen is right there too.
Yeah, number 1, I'm also going to take Swayman, obvious. Number 2, because I pretty much have to, I'm also going to take DeBrusk.
Right.
Number 3 is tough because I'm stuck between 3 players. I got Boqvist, I got Heinen, and I got my boy Pat Maroon. I really want Pat Maroon to come back. I feel like he gives you exactly what this team has been missing for the last couple of years, especially in the playoffs. We've been begging for this team to get some balls and to be tougher and to just speak up and to just do something. And it was crazy that Pat Maroon was pretty much the only guy doing that. Like, it was unbelievable. But as much as I love that 37-year-old, I can't say, I can only have Pat Maroon or Danton Heinen. Oh, give me Pat Maroon. Like, no, I'm not crazy. Yeah. So for sake of being different, I would probably take Danton Heinen. But for me, I'm right with you between Danton Heinen and Boqvist. I mean, pick your poison. I mean, I think that they both proved their value this year. But I'll take Danton Heinen because I feel like Danton Heinen can give you top 6 minutes if you need him to. Boqvist, I wouldn't put him there yet. Maybe he can be there. I mean, he's a young guy, like you said, and he has that kind of skill set to be a top 6 guy. But I just think Danton Heinen is a better player. So Danton Heinen would be number 3 for me.
Fair. All right, Mel. What time is it? It's not 6:58, but do you know what time it is?
7:40.
7:40 a.m., p.m.? What time is it?
p.m., which means Pacific meditation.
7:40 p.m., which means it is time for the Twitter DM questions submitted by you guys on the old Twitter machine. And after these Twitters, we will get into Mel's mailbag. So let's start off with our regulars. Nothing from E2.0 this week. He did send me a message, though, and he said, I got nothing this week. I'll get back to you guys next week.
Listen, it's all right. Ethan's been a trooper since day one. So
day one.
Enjoy the week off. Enjoy your vacation. Enjoy your Memorial Day, too, by the way.
Yeah, enjoy your PTO, Ethan.
Yeah, you've earned it.
Yeah. So this one comes in from Laura. At King of Ping 18 on Twitter, Zaka's biggest fan. She says, happy Tuesday, happy pod day, the best day. But what's not the best is bye-bye Bruins. Makes me sad. But anyways, let's move on from that. Here's my question for the pod. What the fuck now? Time for a lot of trades and heartbreaks for the Bruins players. Who stays and who goes? Also, maybe Draisaitl? What the hell? I'll take it. But what are your guys' thoughts about all these rumors, and who do you want the Bruins to add to their roster? Personally, give me someone to stay with Zacha and Pasta the entire year. It's clear those guys are a fantastic pair together, so if you could get someone that matches their skill level and can consistently play with them, that would be my goal. She also added, don't mean to send you so much stuff, but oh my lord, I got to say something about Zacha's beautiful goal. He's got to shoot more, and it was a long time coming. There's my little Zacha thing I just had to say. But anyways, can't wait to hear the pod tomorrow.
First of all, I want to give Zacha a shout out.
Shout out.
Because he looks fantastic in that Czech jersey. Have you seen him?
Mm-hmm.
He was he was born to wear that jersey. Pasta looks great too, but not as good as Zaka. So I want to give Zaka
Those
his shout out for
jerseys
that.
are so clean. I was
They
actually
really
like really quick to add on to what you were saying. I saw the photo of Pasta doing the interview and he was barefoot. But the only thing I could focus on was like that jersey and like the lettering and the color schemes. And it was just like, fuck, I need to get myself one of those.
I can't believe that the Czechs aren't involved in that World Cup of Hockey thing that the NHL is putting on next year.
I know.
We're being robbed. Big miss.
We're
being robbed of more Zaka and Pasta minutes together.
I know.
But in terms of who I would like back, I think we kind of just went through that. Yep. But who I would like the Bruins to add, I am all aboard the Draisaitl train. I love it. I think every team in the league is on board the Draisaitl trade or a Draisaitl addition to their team. I see you're kind of gritting your teeth over there, but there's a few different reasons. First of all, the guy is a monster. Yes. I mean, you can talk physically. He's like 6'3", or you can talk production. I mean, the guy's a multiple 50-goal scorer. He's
under everyone's bed at night. That's how much of a monster he is.
Yeah, he's numerous times he's hit 100+ points. Also, a playoff nightmare. I don't know if you listened to the newest episode of Spit and Chicklets. He's the third fastest player in NHL history to hit 100 career playoff points. It goes Gretzky, Lemieux, Leon Draisaitl. That's the list in terms of the fewest amount of games that hit 100 points. So he's a proven playoff guy. He's a big center. But the thing for me is you got Pasta here for another 7 seasons. Get him a bona fide stud center to just feed him. You can't tell me Pasta and Draisaitl together would feed families.
Dude, imagine Zaka, Draisaitl, Pasta.
Oh, my God.
Zaka on the wing.
Oh, my God.
And then you can go Patra, center, second line center, Coyle third, Boquist four.
We can get a perfection line 2.0 going. Throw Marchand on that left wing. I mean, Jesus Christ. I mean, we're cooking here. And Draisaitl, I believe he's 28, 29. So, like, he's he's got a lot of miles left. Prime of his career. He can play center. He can play wing. He's a big guy. He's a regular season monster, playoff monster. Get him. I would love Draisaitl. You have the cap space. Let's do it. Your hand is up.
I will say I threw out a little bit of a mock trade today, and I will tell you it's not my best work. But
it was brutal.
Terrible. I would change that second.
Good for the Bruins. I think it might be a little brutal for Edmonton.
It's a little Bruins top heavy, but I think if you trade for Draisaitl, dude, you're giving up it's like the Louisiana Purchase. You're spending all that you got. Well, before you say you're losing Patra or Lorai, one of those two is going for sure with Allmark and another prospect and a draft pick, and that's like bare minimum. Sorry.
The only thing I think about with Draisaitl though is if you were talking about a trade, he's got 1 year left, does he not?
Right.
He's got 1 year left. I mean, there's been whispers that he wants out of Edmonton. He's also said that he doesn't want out of Edmonton, so give him the benefit of the doubt. But the voices saying he wants out of Edmonton have been a lot louder than the voices saying he's happy in Edmonton. I feel like he's more likely to leave Edmonton than stay, which would significantly reduce the Oilers' bargaining power when it comes to making a trade. Now, don't get me wrong. Every team in the league would be trying to knock their door down to get Leon Draisaitl. Mm-hmm. But I feel like the longer... If it's not an off-season move, maybe it's a regular season move next year. Like the longer you get into the season, I feel like that number might start coming down. I don't know. Maybe it goes the exact opposite because you're getting close to the trade deadline. I don't know. But I feel like the number for the price for Leon Draisaitl isn't as high as some people might think it should be, just because he's a pending free agent after this year. But with that being said, if I were the Bruins and if I'm trading for Draisaitl, I only trade for him if you're getting the Hampus Lindholm special. He's coming over in an extension. He's signing that contract while he's on the plane in the middle of the country before the wheels touch at Logan or Providence, where the hell they fly into. I want him with an extension. But in turn, that also increases his trade value. So I don't know. Maybe they just wait until next season when he's a free agent and you sign him and you don't have to give up anybody. I don't know, but I would love Draisaitl in Boston.
Yeah, in terms of free agents, though, I think you take a good, long, hard look at Stamkos. I think that would be an excellent addition to this team. There was a winger as well. Who am I forgetting?
Did you see, not to cut you off in your train
of
thought,
you're good.
Did you see the the Lightning trading for Ryan McDonough, do you think that all but kind of seals a deal on Steven Stamkos? They're running out of money.
They only have about $6.5 million left in cap space. They got to re-sign Anthony Duclair, so he's walking. They got to re-sign Stamkos, and they had a couple others on the back end as well.
Yeah.
But I mean, they're right up on the cap. I mean, who knows? There might be more moves to be made to free up some more money. Obviously, I mean, the season isn't even over. It's over for us, but the league is still going on. But NHL free agents right now that are coming up.
Bertuzzi.
Sam Reinhart will be a free agent.
I have no idea what number he's going to get. He's going to get overpaid. I don't think he's ever going to sniff 50 goals again.
Bertuzzi is back on the market. Teuvo Teravainen. And then it's kind of just, it drops off after that. Jonathan Marchessault, smaller winger. But I mean, we'll see. My right now, my big white whales are Steven Stamkos, and I mean Jake Gensel's out there too. I don't know if you'd be able to bring him in, but Reinhart, Gensel, Stamkos are probably the top three. But that was Laura's DM. So shout out at King of Ping 18 on Twitter. Celtics are about to start, and I know Mel is a big basketball fanatic, so we are going to.
I've transitioned into Celtics mode.
If you can see, if you're watching on YouTube, underneath his name, it says Celtics mode. Underneath mine, it says we're on to 2025. But so we'll jump into these. Both of these are first-time question askers, I do believe. Maybe not George, but he'll correct me if I'm wrong. We'll start with John Mahoney at JMahoney92. I'm interested to hear your take on this one.
Okay.
He said, need to explore what they could get for McAvoy. I would target Anaheim, starting with Mason McTavish and their best D prospect. Wouldn't be a popular move, but may be necessary to shake things up. Now, before you speak, what if he was a part of Draisaitl? What if it was McAvoy and Ullmark?
Nope.
With an extension coming to Draisaitl, that is a fair deal.
No, I would not. I would not move McAvoy. I would move him for Cale Makar.
I'm with you. I'm with you.
I mean, you need defense. I mean, how many injuries have the Bruins had to their defensive unit the last 3 or 4 years? McAvoy's your one stallion.
How many times does McAvoy get hurt, though?
I mean, he gets hurt every game, and then he comes back. For being fair, he sucked. I'll give it to you. He sucked in the second round against Florida this year. He was absolutely brutal. The guy is 26 years old. You have him locked up for the next 6-7 years. He's going to be the future captain of this team. The Boston Bruins historically have always been built through their defense. All of the incredible defensemen that have come through the Boston Bruins system. If one of the reasons that their goalies have been so successful is how good their back end is, and I feel like we've been taking McAvoy for advantage, or taking advantage of having McAvoy here as long as we've had him. If you plucked McAvoy out of this defensive unit, and your top pairing is Lindholm and Carlo, okay. Your second pairing is, oh my God,
Lorai and
Peak, and your third pairing is got to resign Grzelcyk now, I guess. Grzelcyk and Wathers. That sucks. Like that's nowhere near as dominant as this defensive core has been, and like I feel like it's recent memory or whatever. I feel like everybody's looking at how shitty he played against the Florida Panthers this year and go, maybe let's move him. And to be fair, I mean, if you were to trade him for Draisaitl, I mean, that would be hard to say no to. Or if you were to try to kick doors in those prospects they have out in Anaheim, it's not like you're giving him away. But let's go. My DoorDash is here. But I forgot what I was saying. Oh, the guy is a borderline perennial Norris candidate. I mean, he's truly a top 6 defenseman in the league. He's elite. I mean, teams in the NHL would. We were just talking about Draisaitl kicking down doors for him. Teams would be calling Don Sweeney nonstop if McAvoy was on the trade market. There's no way the Bruins would ever move Charlie McAvoy. He's an ingrained part of this organization and part of this core.
Yeah, and in turn, I feel like a lot of people are saying this just because he did have such a shitty series against Florida. And I feel like it's just kind of recency bias a little bit. But you definitely don't trade McAvoy. He's your foundation on the blue line. I think in terms of NHL defensemen, the way they rank, it probably goes obviously Makar. I would go number 2. I would go number 2 Yossi, and then
honestly,
I would go.
Fair, when he's brutal defensively.
I would go 3 Heiskanen. I would go 4 Quinn Hughes. I would go 5 Adam Fox, and then I would go 6 McAvoy. And I think only because McAvoy doesn't really have that offensive touch that those players have. But jumping into the next DM before we get to Mel's mailbag, this one comes in from George. You can give him a follow on Twitter at George Moreau. He said, "Does Olmark get dealt to the Leafs? Should they let JDB walk? In his walk here, I expected day in and day out great effort and did not see it any more than 4 at $5 million. I think they let him go." I definitely don't think Olmark is going to go to the Leafs. I think, if anything, if you really want to explore an Olmark trade within the division, it's Ottawa. And you're looking at either Shane Pinto or Brady Tkachuk. And I would much rather have Brady Tkachuk. And I think you're looking at that as the only option as a trade within the division. Should they let Jake DeBrusk walk? I mean, I think they got to give an effort to sign him. But if he starts to price himself out, then you just got to accept that as it is and, take your loss, take that extra money that you're making in cap and spend it wisely.
Yeah, and if you listen to what DeBrusk is saying, it sounds like the Bruins really haven't made much of an effort to bring him back. I mean,
and it sounds like he wants to stay, though.
Yeah, which is what it's interesting. So they're going to have to I know we already talked about DeBrusk, but the number they come up with is going to be really interesting.
Yeah.
When it comes to trading Olmark to Toronto, I mean, you got to be batshit crazy. There's no way in hell Olmark would. The Bruins would never. I mean,
No. Go ahead. This is like for future. For the future.
The Bruins would never, ever in a million years help out the Toronto Maple Leafs, because that is exactly what that team needs right now as a goalie. So there is no way in hell the Bruins would trade Linus Olmark to Toronto. I do like your idea of sending him to Ottawa. I'm wondering if Ottawa would be willing to move Brady Tkachuk for a guy like Linus Olmark, because Tkachuk would be masterful in Boston.
A monster.
Just beautiful Boston Bruin, his game style. And you can't tell me every time the Bruins now meet up with the Florida Panthers, if Brady Tkachuk was on this team, man, oh my God, that would be incredible. But I know Olmark has, is it a 16 team no trade list that he has?
Yeah, literally half the league.
Yeah, so the Bruins are going to be, making some phone calls to see who's going to be willing to give up what. But it sounds like the LA Kings were interested in him. There was a deal on the table, but he didn't want to go play for LA. I wonder if maybe the Bruins revisit that in the offseason. But I don't know. I think if there was one team that there was absolutely no shot of Linus Olmark playing for, it would be the Toronto Maple Leafs.
Yeah, 100%. Just the Bruins would never. Never.
I wouldn't count out Edmonton. I would like to see what Edmonton would be willing to give for Linus Olmark, because I wouldn't.
I wouldn't count out Edmonton either. I had my hand raised because I wanted to add this before I forgot it. I have seen way too many people being way too confident about wanting to add Mitch Marner to this team. Why? Why? We just spent a month shitting on this guy and ripping him apart because he clearly is a little. What's the right word? He's not tough enough. Like he's a great regular season player. Don't get me wrong. He's great at his little flippy doos and fucking trick shots and shit.
His little tomahawks, his little
his little fucking inside outside edges. Fucking look at me, I'm Mitch Marner. I can say him on TikTok. I'm an ambassador. No. I'm
with you. I mean, we were just talking about all these guys who you pay them for what they do in the playoffs, and Mitch Marner completely disappears. I mean, what's the newspaper up there? The Toronto Sun or whatever? I mean, when they called him like the Invisible Man or something on their cover.
I'm pretty sure they put him on a milk carton.
Yeah, he's missing. Like, he was nowhere to be found in the playoffs. And
except for when he's throwing his gloves on the fucking bench. That's the only time you saw him.
And on top of that, he seems, and like I've seen reports from Toronto, he's a difficult teammate. Like, he seems like a bit of a diva, and he would have a huge contract. Like, his number would be monstrous. And like, there's the baggage that would come with Mitch Marner is not worth it. So I think he's an incredible regular season player, but like, you don't win Stanley Cups in the regular season. So I'm good on passing on Mitch Marner.
Yep. All right, Mel. I heard your mailbox open. I went to deliver the mail to your house, but God damn it, was that mailbox full. So you know what, Mel? You know what you got?
What?
You got mail.
Oh my god.
Open up that mailbox, baby.
All right, I got 2 letters in my mailbox this week. The first one comes from old friend of the show, our friend from across the pond, Jack. You can follow Jack on Twitter at @AJackB_.
Oh yeah.
Jack says, "Hey guys, a disappointing end to a season within which we've absolutely overachieved. So let's keep this positive. Cast our minds back to October and think about how we hoped we'd sneak into the playoffs after losing our 1 and 2 seed, both of whom were outstanding. If you'd have told me at that point that we'd have a franchise record-breaking start to the season, 100-plus points, seen Bergeron 2.0 emerge, witnessed the rise of Lohrei, knocked the Leafs out in 7 before taking the Panthers to 6, I'd have both ordered you a drug test and bitten your hand off."
Yes, I love him.
It's safe to say that, despite having no first-round draft picks for 100 years, the future in Boston is bright. Excited for the potential moves in the offseason given our cap space, but much like Ethan 2.0 last pod, we'll bank that up for later episodes. You have, however, got me excited, reminding me Stammer is potentially free. What's your biggest surprise of the season? For me, it may be the fridge on skates that is a 6'5", 220-pound Justin Brazeau. I had not heard of him for understandable reasons, but now I think he could be fantastic for us in the future. Finally, a massive thank you to you guys and everything you do each week for the pod. It's been amazing being able to discuss the Bruins with you each week from across the pond, interact with you both via Twitter, and listen to the pod. My first Something's Bruin episode was the Thank You Bergeron one, and I've been hooked ever since. It's been a pleasure riding this season with you both. I'll be tuning in each week during the offseason, but won't be as active with my questions as I've mainly fueled by mugging off teams we've dispatched. Have an amazing summer, team. Your friend across the pond, Jack.
You're the best, Jack. Holy shit. See, you know, we've gotten a lot of messages like that throughout the day today of people just saying, like, thank you guys for what you do. Like, it was an awesome season. We had so much fun following along with you guys. And that's what makes doing this so much fun. Like, obviously, hopping on with you, hopping on with Mel every week and just kind of shooting the shit. Like, we talk about it all the time. Like, we used to just do it normally. And we decided 2 years ago to start up this podcast and just see where it went. And goddamn, has it been a hell of a ride. We've met so many people through this. We've helped build an already, you know, growing community into a bigger community. And we can't thank you guys enough for hopping in and listening to our nonsense week after week and keeping us going and keeping the morale high and contributing to the show. And for real, like you know, there's no words for it. We're just extremely, extremely grateful, and we're happy, and we'll always continue to do this for you guys.
Yeah, I mean, when we started this, I don't really know if we ever really. I don't want to say I don't know if we didn't have plans for it, but like we were just kind of like fun. Like, I don't know. Like, you text me one day, like, and I always talk about this, but you text me one day like, hey, like, you want to do a Bruins pod? And I was like, okay, why not? And then, you know, we started recording, and then, like, for us, like, we don't even really look at the downloads. Like, none of that matters to us. Like, it was always about, like, just us together talking about hockey, and just, you know, because Sully and I have known each other since we were like 8 years old. Yep. I mean, we grew up together. We played middle school hockey together, JV hockey together, high school hockey together. We're now in a men's league team. We talk about them every now and then. Don't know if you hear it. We're the defending champs.
Yeah.
So being able to get on you and talk with you, whoa, didn't mean like that.
Whoa!
Being able to get on
tell
with
them,
you.
Mel.
Being able to get on with you every week and talk hockey, and to, you know, be a part of this Bruins community that's been so welcoming to us, because we were a new Bruins pod. I wasn't part of Bruins Twitter. I mean, I tweet. If you follow me on Twitter, all I tweet about now is just stupid shit that pops into my mind, with an occasional Bruins tweet every now and then. And it's been such a welcoming community. And then, of course, like, meeting everybody that we've met. I mean, there's from Jack, from Laura, from Johnny, from Ethan 2.0, from Lovell. I mean, there's a million people who are DJ. There's a million people who are always, you know, interacting with us on Twitter, saying hi to us at Bruins games, you know, being part of the show, whether it be sending in voicemails or sending in DMs or Mel's mailbag. And Sully and I are just, you know, we're a couple silly idiots, and we just try to have some fun and sprinkle some fun Bruins talk into people's days. And to see them, you know, like, we started this, you know, the whole Mel's mailbag things. People are like, hey, here's your letter for the week. And it's just fun. Like, people play along with us. So it's been really cool. So I don't think I can say anything else that Sully didn't say. Like, we can't thank everybody enough for supporting us and coming along for the ride. And we're now at 93 episodes, 7 away from 100, which is just craziest shit ever. But thank you everybody for being as supportive for both of us as you have, because I really don't have the words to explain it. But
yeah. And voicemails will be coming back as well really soon. I know I'd been talking to Johnny through Twitter over the past couple of days, and
everybody wants to know what's going on with Johnny.
Yeah, they're coming back. We just, as the season came to to a close and everything was so hectic, we wanted to focus like mainly on what was going on. So voicemails will be coming back, so don't worry about that. We'll find a way to integrate it back into the show, especially now that the off season's here. We have plenty of things to workshop and kind of throw back in. So yeah. Thank you.
Back quickly to Jack's question: what's your biggest surprise of the season?
Oh yeah. Yeah, man, there were so many positive surprises. Like, obviously, you have Matthew Patra, you have Mason Lohrei, like he said, Justin Brazeau.
We were talking about Zaka as 1C. What's that going to look like? He looked great.
Yep.
Another career year from Zaka offensively. What's Coyle going to look like as 2C? He looked great. You said Lohrei. I mean, everything we talked about with Swayman. They found Wotherspoon at the bottom of a barrel right next to Patra.
Yeah.
Traded for Peak. Peak's another young guy. He looks great as well. I mean, there's a lot of surprises. I don't know if you know what I'm going to say. This my biggest surprise of the season was the Bruins trading for Pat Maroon, because I never thought it would happen, and myself and I feel like Bruins faithful falling in love with Pat Maroon as quickly and as hard as we all did. I would die for him. That is my biggest surprise of the season.
That's a good pick. I think for me, to be a little bit different, I'll go down a different route. But you're coming into the year, you're missing your legendary centers, both of them, Bergeron and Krejci. You missed out on both of them for the season, and all of a sudden, out of the blue, out of the womb, comes this little young buck, Matthew Patra, lights up the preseason, wins the spot, and gets, before getting hurt, 15 points in 33 games, and really takes over a cemented spot in the lineup. And the whole discussion going into the season was, who's going to be your centers? You're missing centers. You need to trade for a center. You don't have anybody. And he stumbles in and he produces and he plays well. And that kind of lessens the need to go find that number 1C. You have center depth. And I think Matthew Patra, I can't believe I'm not saying Mason Lohrei, because oh my God. But it's probably Matthew Patra, because you heard about Mason Lohrei before the season. You knew he was in the system. You knew he was good. You didn't know he was this good this soon. Yeah. But Matthew Patra, right out of juniors, right to the league, my biggest surprise was Matthew Patra, and I cannot wait to watch him all. It's going to be him and Lohrei in the season, or in the lineup to start the season next year. I'm amped.
I think we might have to be there for game 1.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I was actually thinking about that today. I was like, I went to the opening night this season, and I was like, I'm going to go next year. Like, it's guaranteed.
I think I need to get myself a Lohrei jersey as well.
Yeah.
I have but yeah, I know that's a crazy jersey to have too. And you have the Centennial. I mean, obviously Centennial is a rookie, but it makes it all the cooler, because someday, 15 years from now, when he's in his mid-30s and he's still in the Bruins, you can always say, I have his rookie jersey, and you have proof because it's a Centennial jersey.
Yep.
All right. Thank you, as always, Jack, for your letter and for your words. It means a lot.
Yeah. Thank you, Jack.
I have one more letter for Mel's mailbag. It was a late night submission. She overnighted it. USPS working overtime.
Certified.
Shout out Sully. Shout out Lovell. And
Priority
shout out Paco.
Priority mail. Paco! Paco!
Paco!
Gloves tomorrow, Paco!
This one is from Laura. Of course, you can follow Laura on Twitter at KingofPing18. Laura says, here's my mailbag, but it's probably late. If you had to keep one and trade one, who would you keep?
Ooh.
Lauko or Freddie? My vote is bye-bye Freddie.
Whoa!
Crazy!
Whoa!
Laura.
Whoa, Laura!
That is crazy.
Laura!
I would
What?
captain the boat that would take Lauko back to his
No.
There is no way I would keep Lauko over Frederick.
No, it's Freddie. I mean, it's you trade if you had to pick between the two, you have to give rid of Lauko. I love Lauko. I love everything Lauko does.
Yeah,
but Freddie's a step above.
Yeah. I mean, Freddie, he gives you more offense. He gives you more intangibles. The only thing that Lauko does better than Trent Frederick is draw penalties. And like that's such a minuscule part of the game. Yeah.
Can I add a counter to this?
Sure.
Jacob Lauko or Johnny Beecher?
I would keep Beecher.
Okay, me too. Maybe that wasn't as good as
No, I mean, there's quite a few people.
Okay.
Okay.
Jacob Lauko or Justin Brazeau?
Oh, that's a better one. I would probably keep Brazeau.
I'd keep Brazeau too.
Yeah.
I think what we're finding out here is there's a lot of guys we'd keep over Lauko. Yeah. And that's not a dig at Lauko either. I love Lauko and I love what he brings to the lineup. But I mean, Freddie all day over Lauko. Yeah, for sure. I mean, for sure.
The only I don't know if there's any forwards I would keep Lauko over. I mean, like Pat Maroon, because of his age, I feel like is the obvious, but
Boakfist?
I don't know.
I'd keep Boakfist.
I think I would keep Boakfist too.
Fuck, yeah. Dude, we might be seeing the end of Jacob Lauko. I hate to say it.
What about? And you haven't seen him yet, but what about Lauko or Lysell? Is that fair?
Are you dealing Lysell for an asset, or are you just getting rid of him?
Just getting rid of him.
Lauko.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah. He's a proven thing if you want to.
I hate it though, because Lauko's like when he's in the lineup, he's legit. Like I love watching him play. Yeah,
but then like he plays 2 consecutive games. You're like, wow, we could have done so much better than this on our fourth line right away.
Yeah, I guess. I guess so. Yeah, I guess so. But that was it for your mailbag.
That's it.
The mailbag is done. All right.
What the hell was that?
I don't think I've ever made that accent, whatever that was.
The mailbag is done.
I don't know where that came from.
Oh, shit.
But hey, I mean, hell of a season. Second round against the Florida Panthers. You went all the way to Game 6, and you lost with a minute and a half to go. You played your balls off on a year that was supposed to be a bridge year. And there's a lot to be proud of. With that being said, the Something's Bruin podcast will continue to go throughout the offseason. We'll keep you up to date with everything. This is a big time for your guys' questions and DMs. Mel?
And I do have a show update. I was just telling Sully before we recorded. I will not be on next week because I will be in the Great White North. I will be in Canada. Maybe scouting for some talent for the Bruins. I don't know, but I'll be vacationing in Montreal and Quebec City with my friends. So sorry.
That's okay. Well, there's still going to
be a long off season.
There's still going to be an episode next week. We'll find a way to fill out for Mel. So everybody, make sure you wish Mel a happy birthday on Twitter. He will be going to Montreal and Quebec City, like he said, next week. So we'll find somebody to fill in, but the episode will still be out. But other than that, we can't thank you guys enough for a great, fun, unbelievable, entertaining, memorable season all together. Like I said, we'll continue. This feels like a goodbye. It's not a goodbye. We're still going to be here next week, but just wanted to reflect on the season. For a season that was supposed to be a bridge year, kind of, a meh year, it was a ton of fun. And a lot of that goes out to you guys for making it that way.
Yeah, for real. And I will say as well, the end of the season episode that we did last year was a lot harder than this one. So at least we can hang our hats on that.
Dude, we named the name of the episode last year. First of all, the number episode of when we recorded the post loss to the Panthers last year was number 40, the Tuukka Rask episode. So that just fueled the conspiracies of like Tuukka can't, whatever, he not clutch, of course. But it was also, we titled it Group Therapy. Like this one's going to be a lot happier, a lot chippier. Yeah. And we have a lot to look forward to. Last year was just such a kick in the dick.
That sucked ass.
So bad. But hey, that's it. With that being said, we are excited for a nice offseason. Celtics are on right now, so good luck to the Celtics. Hope they carry it home. Bring home that 18th banner that they've been talking about for 10 years.
Hey.
Sorry, I know that was a low blow to you.
Yeah.
With that being said, episode, I really touched a nerve with Mel on that. Episode 93 of the Something's Bruin podcast, as always, brought to you in partnership with the one and only Primetime Productions. Give them a follow on Twitter at Primetime Prods. You can give the Something's Bruin Twitter account a follow on Twitter at Bruin Something, no G at the end. We are on YouTube at... Let me wait till it scrolls across the bottom here so I don't get it wrong. We are on YouTube at Something's Bruin. Every episode has been going up lately. Like I said, I bought a USB for my laptop to store the episodes so that I no longer have to manage my disk space on my laptop because it is filled with nonsense, crap, pictures, you name it. It's crap load junk full of shit. But with that being said, you can follow myself on Twitter at _Mike Sullivan. You can follow Nick on Twitter at Nick Melanson _. And with that being said, we bid adieu to the 2023-2024 season. And we look forward.
Practicing my French for next week.
Yeah, merci beaucoup. As we look forward to the off season of 2024 and what will be the beginning of an epic 2024-2025 NHL Bruins season. And with that being said, thank you all so much for sticking with us through the regular season. We have so much more for you guys in the next coming weeks for the off season. We're trying to get some interviews, perhaps, with some people, some folks that you might know. And with that being said, speculate all you want. Who's coming onto the show next? I guess you're going to have to wait.
Who's going to be Bruin?
Something's brewing here on the Something's Bruin podcast. And with that being said, episode 93 of the Something's Bruin podcast. We'll catch you next week.
Bye.